What's up? Alex from LearnBeachVolleyballFast.com here. I just got inspired. So actually I was just sitting in the couch and reading one of Kent Steffes' beach volleyball posts, which if you have not seen those, I would recommend you do. It's Kent Steffes on Facebook, and he has written a lot of stuff about winning, about growing the sport, a lot of very interesting thoughts. Anyway, the post I was reading now, so it was funny. I was sitting on the couch and I wrote a comment on the post, and as I wrote the comment, I was like, this would be an interesting podcast idea. And I was sitting here and the microphone was right next to me, so I just plugged it into the phone and now I started recording. So this is a very spontaneous podcast episode. I just came up with the idea 3 minutes ago. Anyway, so there's one analogy here that I want to talk about. I just think it's a nice way to think about the development of a player and what it takes to be a good beach volleyball player. And also I want to discuss the expression holistic thinking a little bit. But I'll start with the analogy. So if we, instead of trying to become good beach volleyball players, we imagine that we try to keep water in a bucket. But it's a special bucket. It's a bucket with a bunch of holes. Let's say that there's 100 holes in this bucket. And when someone decides to start playing beach volleyball, they will get handed their own bucket. And let's say that a beginner has 100 holes in the bucket, and they're all just like big and leaky. So whenever this person tries to put water in the bucket, it will just like flow out like in all sorts of directions. And this is basically what happens when a beginner plays volleyball. They get served, they shank the ball. Even if they wouldn't shank the ball, their partner will shank the ball, and it just doesn't work. Like the balls are flying everywhere, aka the bucket, the water is just splashing, or not splashing, but squirting. Is that the right word? It's just like being pushed out of these holes in all sorts of directions. And in one sense, so obviously, yes, beginners, people have different backgrounds. So some people will get a bucket that has a little bit less holes. Maybe someone has an athletic background from another sport. Maybe they're a basketball player, so they can already jump quite well. Maybe they have some blocking skills that is very similar in basketball. So they will have some of these holes, we can say they're already plugged in, like they're already fixed. But in general, we could imagine that in the supermarket there was this like beach volleyball player beginner pack, and it's just a bucket with a bunch of holes, and it's the same holes for everyone, and your job is basically to fix these holes to become a better player. So this analogy continues a little bit with that. Obviously, so beach volleyball is in a sense, it's a game of reducing mistakes. Of course, it's also a game of doing good things, but it's like making sure you don't shank serve receives is maybe one hole in the bucket, but another hole in the bucket might be making sure that you pass perfectly on easy serves. And another hole in the bucket might be to make sure that you pass quite pretty well, as long as it's not a crazy good serve. And I think the insanely good serves, even professionals don't pass super well. So maybe that's not a hole in the bucket. It could be, but maybe not a realistic one. But anyway, I think you start getting the point. So there's a bunch of holes in this bucket, and we're trying to fix them. And the more waterproof our bucket will be, the longer. If a machine just fills up our bucket with water, it will leak slower. And basically, if two teams have each of their bucket, and the machine just fills the buckets at the same time, like, and they're full with water, whatever team's bucket that leaks the slowest is basically the better team, because they just have more qualities that make for good beach volleyball. The thing with this post of Kent Steffes was that so he talked about basically individual stats. So maybe we could take a player that has, like, you can do the stats on them and they have great passing and they have great setting and they have great attacking. And that might seem like a good player. But the thing is that holistic thinking, this term means that basically looking at the whole of reality, looking at everything that is actually needed to find success. And if we don't have holistic thinking, we might miss out on important details. Important details. I feel like that's a sentence I've said earlier in the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast project also. But so the example that he put in the post was like skills of dealing with your team or your partner in beach volleyball, like socially, like both, like, how do you guys train together to get the most out of your training? How do you guys play games together? How do you help your partner psychologically when you play, when you're in pressure situations? How do you help your partner psychologically when you guys are practicing together? How do you organize your lives together? How do you find what's the word? Like the give and take, where's the compromise? Who compromises? There's a lot here, a lot of details that if you don't get along or don't make it work with your playing partner, you're not going to win on the beach volleyball court alone. So if we just look at a player and their qualities as in the skills of the game, the physical skills, and we think that that's all it takes, this is not holistic thinking. So an example of holistic thinking in general in life, one very, I guess, quite normal way of, it's like, sure, having enough money to live your life is a good thing for you, or if you want to have a good life. But another thing is to have good health, because if you don't have good health, you're not going to be able to do the stuff you want to do in your life anyway, and your life will not be what you want it to be. So it doesn't matter how many millions or trillions or billions you would have on your bank account. If you don't have good health, your life is not going to be great. So it's like, so just going for money and becoming the richest man on earth with the expense of losing everything else. You lose your relationships, your health, your hobbies, your purpose in life, everything. This is not holistic thinking. You're one-dimensional thinking, and you're forgetting about a bunch of other details that are actually also important for your life to be good. So this is like looking at the bucket from just one side. So it has a backside that you don't see, and you're like, oh, here's 50 holes. I'm gonna super reinforce these 50 holes, and then I should be the best ever player, right? But you're completely missing the backside of the bucket where there's 50 other holes that you're just like, they're just leaking out all this water. It's just like so this is not holistic thinking, and this is a trap that unfortunately sometimes we fall in. And this gets even more complex. So this is a theory from an online course I took that I like a lot. He put knowledge in 3 different categories, which is known knowns. So basically the stuff that you know. So basically you know that one of the holes in the bucket is to learn to pass, and you know how to pass. Another category is the known unknowns. So it's basically, you know that to be a good beach volleyball player, you need to set well, but you also know that you don't know how to set well yet. So you're aware of the problem, and you know that you need to fix it. So, which means that in the future you have a chance of fixing it, since you're at least aware of the problem. But he said that the thing that will fuck your life up is the unknown unknowns. The stuff that you don't know how to do them, and you don't even know, you're not even aware of that you need to know how to do them. These are the hidden holes in the bucket, the ones that are behind on the backside of the bucket, and you haven't twisted the bucket around to even see that the holes exist. And you might have fixed the other holes like so well, like they might be steel reinforced, but if there's some other holes on the backside of the bucket that are just like leaking out the water, you're not going to be a good player. So you need to fix those as well. Some of these might be, for example, the social stuff that I talked about, getting along with partners. Sometimes people have behaviors that they don't even know puts other people off. They might have quirks in their personality. People might think that they're like complaining a lot, and therefore they're just not pleasurable to be around. So they don't want to be their partner for too long. Or there's all these sorts of blind spots that we have. And those can absolutely hold you back from your beach volleyball goals. Well, this was not supposed to be a life coaching type of episode, but one of the good tools to find those blind spots is through really good friends or partners, love partners, beach volleyball partners. But it takes a level of trust, because you need to ask them for honest feedback, and they need to trust you enough that if they give you the hard truth, the stuff that your ego doesn't want to hear, if they give you that straight to your face, that you will not backlash and basically make them into an enemy of yours. So probably you need to it needs to be a good friend. You need to make sure that they trust you before, and then you can go and ask that. And it's a pretty tough process, but it's also it's one of the ways I know that you can get to the unknown unknowns, and it's powerful stuff, because as you say, the unknown unknowns is the ones that will fuck you up. You don't want to have those holes in the bucket leaking. So what does this lead to? Another thought I had when I read the post by Ken was, I said, if you don't have holistic thinking, so you have some unknown holes in your bucket, even if the holes that you know of, you would absolutely completely steel reinforce them, but you have some wide open holes on the back side of the bucket. Those holes might leak so much water that someone else they didn't steel reinforce their bucket. They just had some bubble gum that they just pushed into the holes here and there, and a little bit there. But they had a better overview of all of the holes that exist. But the bubble gum might leak a little bit in some of the holes that they fixed. They might have less water leakage in their bucket than you, if you have some holes that you didn't even realize were there. I believe, this is a claim, but I believe that the perfect beach volleyball has not been played yet. So if you look at the top players of the world throughout the history, a lot of them have amazing qualities, but I think there is potential for even better. So basically, I think even however amazing they are, I think they could still do something even, because otherwise people wouldn't get better. People evolve and do get better, and people acknowledge that, oh, this team that was best last year, they're even better now. If they would already be the perfect team, that would not be possible. So I don't think this is a controversial take. But anyway, the completely steel reinforced bucket with absolutely no leakage, doesn't exist and will probably never exist. So it's basically about the game of winning in beach volleyball is to, quote unquote, fix your bucket as well as possible so that it leaks as little as possible. And even at the pro level, I think that will favor someone who fixes every single hole a little bit compared to someone that completely fixes most of the holes but misses out on the existence of some other holes. Yeah, I think that was it. I hope this gave you some good ideas and that you like this way of thinking. If there's any comments, let me know in the comment section. So what I always do with the podcast episodes is that I also upload them on YouTube. And if you listen to this in the podcast app, you can go in the description of the episode and click the link to the same episode on YouTube, and there you have the comment section. But yeah, let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and maybe next time you hear me, it will be a better planned video or podcast episode. But sometimes I want to experiment with doing this kind of stuff also. And also, if you realize any potential holes in a bucket that a lot of people miss, or maybe, a lot of people miss, or some people miss, or whatever, just like these sneaky holes in a bucket that people do miss and do not realize that they miss, comment about those in the comment section also, and maybe we can discuss that further. All right, thanks for this time.